Hello everyone, lesson number 2, the Freedom article, Baal HaSulam article series. What's up? So we have some questions from last time and we'll take it from there. By the way, we're starting from the Freedom article. How surprising if it's the Freedom lesson 2. So you can find the article either on the link in the description box, or if you have the book Kabbalah for the students, it's actually on page 375. Nice. Okay, so let's answer some of Leah's questions from last time, which are not so related, but they're a bit off topic, but I'll answer them anyway. But Leah, please try to stay on topic, okay? I heard that connection is trying to feel others' desires and connect with their desires. Well, it's not. Connection is a state, a situation in which you are connected to others, nullifying your will to receive and connected to others. But yes, in order to get there, you need to feel other desires and connect with their desires. At least make it an effort to do that, and the upper light corrects that or helps you with that. How can you connect with evil desires? Well, you don't connect with the egoistic desires of others, neither evil or good. You connect with their point in the heart, meaning with their desire to adhesion with the Creator. Okay, so that was that. So it was the wrong assumption, and that's why you had a question. I would like to have an example of bestow. Well, you cannot until you attain that, because bestow is about an internal state and not an external action. You cannot see that. You can see external actions like giving and receiving, but you don't know about the intention of the person. Explaining the inner sensation and the distinction between a normal egoistic situation and a situation of bestow. How can somebody describe to you the inner sensation? Even in our world, like try to describe the inner sensation of a normal egoistic desire. Like, try to write a book about our world, like, or about what you feel at the moment, in your thoughts and your feeling. It's like no one can convey that to somebody else. We just give references to one another, and then the other takes the reference and translates it internally according to his state. If he's a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or 20-year-old, if he's a male or a female, or if he's like a intelligent person or not, and he interprets that in his own vessels, like, or in her own vessels. And the person give away. If the intention itself is bestowing, the person will give away all he got and leave nothing for himself. And that's also not correct. On a corporeal level, you must take care of yourself. Otherwise, you fall on society, which is even more egoistic than taking from society. Because you compel yourself on them and they have to take care of you. So there's a complete difference between what you do in your intention and what you do like on a basic level in this world. So you have a bit of confusion on all of this question. How can somebody survive if he reaches that okay, so this is the same. So basically, most of your questions, I think, come because you don't practice that in action, meaning the spiritual teaching. So what I would recommend you to do, I don't know if you're a student or you're studying regularly in KBU or not, but if you do, if you're not, I would recommend to join. If you do, I would recommend advancing in the lesson and joining a 10, okay, or a group, and working in a group according to the right instruction. And if you do that, then you'll see that you have a lot of confusion between this world, spirituality, what does it mean to bestow, etc. Okay, so that was 6 minutes off topic. But okay, if you have questions like that, no problem. I'll try to answer that. So now let's get back to our article. So we're on page 377. If you have the book Kabbalah for the students, the law of casual, how do you pronounce that? This morning starts. Interesting. Let's see how you pronounce that. Okay.
Causality.
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 Causality. Okay, nice. Causality. That's how you pronounce that. In case you wondered. The law of causality. Okay, so if you're going to the link, just search Ctrl F, the title, and let's begin. So what we've talked last time is the fact that we have no free choice, okay? So we are compelled by nature to act and attain more pleasure, less pain. And we have no way of escaping that. Moreover, there is no difference between us and animals, just that we can somehow relate to a future pleasure and do calculation compared to that. But in the end, it's all about calculation. And moreover, that even the form or the essence or the definition of pleasure is not given to us, it's given to society. So either through education, advertising, or whatever, I'm being born into a state in which others determine what will be pleasure for me, and I must go and attain that. Okay, and so we finished with a big question. So if there is no free choice, what's the point of all of it? You know, like, so what actually are we doing here? Okay, so now let's see what he's writing about the law of causality. It is worthwhile, it is, okay. It is worthwhile taking some time to grasp such an important thing, meaning how we exist in the world as beings with the self, where each of us regards himself a unique entity acting on its own, independent of external, alien, and unknown forces, and does this being, the self, appear to us? Okay, so this is a big question, the self. Because when we talk about free choice, we're talking about a self that acts according to his own free choice. But who said that there is such a thing as a self? Okay, so a bee or an ant or even an elephant, they don't actually relate to themselves as a self, meaning as a independent, external or alien to unknown forces self. Okay, like a unique entity. You don't go and see around an ant or an elephant wanting to realize themselves or believe that there is some kind of hidden unique potential in them to realize. So we don't have that. Or they don't have that, we do. So Baal is asking, let's talk about, he's asking, can we try to understand that? It is true that there is a general connection among all the elements of reality before us, which abide by the law of causality, by way of cause and effect moving forward. And as the whole, so is each item for itself, meaning that each and every creature in the world, from the four types, still, vegetative, animate, and speaking, abides by the law of causality, by way of cause and effect. It's just like when we talk in physics or in chemistry, that there is no existence from absence, meaning that there is the law of preservation of matter or energy, okay? So everything comes from what was before it. Nothing comes out of the blue. Moreover, each particular form of a particular behavior which a creature follows while in this world is pushed by ancient causes, compelling it to accept that change in that behavior and not another whatsoever. And this is apparent to all who examine the ways of nature from a pure scientific point of view, and without a shred of bias. Indeed, we must analyze this matter to allow ourselves to examine it from all sides. Okay? So Baal says, in order to understand free choice, we need to understand this concept of self. In order to understand this concept of self, whether it's an illusion or a true, genuine feeling, we need to understand the law of causality. And in this law of causality, just like everyone who examines nature, finds out that everything that is now is a result of a chain of cause and effect that came before it. Okay? Either you can say from the internal aspects of this thing, just like we see, for example, with evolution and the concept of DNA and genetics, or from external forces that was, like we talk about education, or we talk about culture of a nation, or we can talk about what science, which is partly new in science. Well, it's not so new. You can find the concept already in Lamarck, but today science actually come to understanding about epigenetics, for example, meaning understanding how life experience are being imprinted in the, well, it's not the DNA, but in the internal information, and are being passed on from generation to generation. So it doesn't matter in what way you want to talk about it or examine it, HaSulam wants to go one layer deeper and talk about it from the eyes or the perspective of the wisdom of Kabbalah, and to understand how this law of causality actually works, either on the particular or at the general level. So, 4 factors. That's an important title. He will talk about 4 factors by which we need to examine the development of a creature, or you can say the law of causality, or you can say that each item is being built from these 4 factors. Bear in mind that every emergence, and also emergence is each word here is very deep and heavy, like emergence in nature is a big thing, okay? It's a characteristic of a complex system in which we cannot actually predict in many cases what will emerge, and sometimes we have things that seem to us like miracles that emerge. So things that we cannot really understand or actually try to, how do you say, to reconstruct, not to reconstruct, but to copy in an artificial way the form of nature. So for example, phenomena like life, consciousness, altruism, they are all emergent phenomena. So bear in mind that every emergence occurring in the beings of the world must be perceived not as extending existence from absence, but as existence from existence, through an actual entity that has shed its previous form and has robbed its current one. Therefore, we must understand that in every emergence in the world there are 4 factors where from the 4 of them together arises that emergence. They are called by the names A. the source, B. the unchanging conduct of cause and effect related to the source's own attribute, C. its internal conducts of cause and effect which change by contact with alien forces, D. the contacts of cause and effect of alien things which affect it from the outside. Okay, so we'll elaborate a lot about the 4, but just to make things a bit simpler maybe. So he says that in every emergent phenomena you have these 4 items, 4 factors that come together. So the first factor is the source, something that is very internal and unique to that phenomena. the second factor is the unchanging, okay, it's unchanging. Cause and effect, meaning it's the way the thing is programmed to not relate. How do you say that? Give. To respond. Okay. So yeah, respond is a good word. So unchanging cause and effect in which the thing responds or related to the source on attribute. So it's unchanging and it relates to the source. Okay, so there are some attributes by the source, or the source determines specific attributes, and there are things that relate to that attribute. Okay, we'll see that later on with an example. Okay, it will be much simpler. And then you have the internal. Okay, so these are still it's still internal. It's still relates to the source. Internal conducts of cause and effect. Okay, so this is we change by contact with alien forces. Okay, so these are changing. And they relate to external forces, alien forces. Okay, but they are still, as I drew it, part or a result of the source, or connected to the source. Meaning, giving another source, they would be different. And you have the conducts of cause and effect of alien things. Okay, so you have alien things. And they have their own way of contact. And of course that they, on their account, influence the source and the phenomena itself. Okay, so these are the four that he's going to explain about. Okay, and I will clarify them one at a time. The first reason, the source, the first matter. The source is the first matter related to that being, for there is nothing new under the sun. And anything that happens in our world is not existence from absence, but existence from existence. It is an entity that has stripped off its former shape and taken on another form, different from the first. And that entity which shed its previous form is defined as the source. In it lies the potential, destined, that's how you pronounce that, destinate, or maybe, I don't know which word it refers to actually.
Destined. Destined. Destined.
I cannot pronounce that.
Destined.
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 And what does it mean? It means actually that it's like the destiny of it. Yeah, developing according to a plan. Destined.
Destined.
Destined. She makes a twitch in the end, like destined.
Destined.
Destined. In the end, it'll sound like Google Translate. Okay, so in it lies the potential destined to be revealed and determined at the end of the formation of that emergence. Therefore, it is clearly considered its primary cause. Okay, and it's not so simple as it looks, because what does it mean, the source? Okay, so especially if we're talking about a changing series of actions or cause and effects. Okay, so usually, let's talk about Iran. So what is Iran through all of his life, or through other lives as well, or if you're talking about a concept like let's talk about, for example, wood. Okay, so wood is in the tree, and then it's being cut off, and then it's being processed, and you can make out of it different stuff. it would still be wood, and maybe you can burn it and it's a burned wood, and etc., etc. So what is that concept that stays, which is that wood? It's a question. The second reason, cause and effect that stem from itself. This is a conduct of cause and effect related to the source on attributes, and which is unchanging. Take, for example, a stalk of wheat. Okay, so we have something that is called a wheat. The wheat is the source. It doesn't change, the source. And now this wheat source has a cause and effect that stem from itself. Okay, so take, for example, a stalk of wheat that has rotted in the ground and arrived at a state of sowing many stalks of wheat. Thus, that rotten state is deemed the source, meaning that the essence of the wheat has stripped off its former shape, the shape of wheat, and has taken on a new discernment, that of rotten wheat, which is the seed called the source, which has no shape at all. Okay, so this is another aspect of the source. It's like the thing that is being unclothed or stripped from any external manifestation, like completely clean. And then you can ask what is there. So it's only information. Now after rotting in the ground, it has become fit for robbing another form, the form of many stalks of wheat, intended to emerge from that source, which is the seed. It is known to all that this source is destined to become neither cereal nor oats, but only equalized with its former shape, which has left it, being the single stalk of wheat. And although it changes to a certain degree in quality and quantity, for in the former shape it was a single stalk, and now there are 10 stalks, and in taste and appearance too, the essence of the shape of the wheat remains unchanged. Thus, there is a conduct of cause and effect here, ascribed to the source on attribute which never changes. Thus, cereal will never merge from wheat, as we have said, and this is called the second reason. Okay, so there is a conduct of cause and effect that comes from their own, meaning, so there is a source, which is some kind of information, and there is the external form, which you can call it the wheat. And this form has its way of conduct. Okay, so in flavor and in the way it appears in general, not specifically, it can change, but in general. Okay, and it differentiated from other aspects. And also, if it has to grow, doesn't matter if it's one stalk or many, it has to go through a process of being green, and then maturing, and then rotting afterwards, etc., etc., and then again. So it has some kind of sequence which is unchanging. And still, it's pretty confusing, because you can ask, okay, where lies the difference that makes actually the wheat something separated from cereal or from oat, compared to the difference between one wheat to another. So these would be good questions, but Baal doesn't explain that. He talks about it in a very general way. And I think we won't start with the third reason or the third factor today. Instead, let's see if we have questions. Benny is asking, why does everyone's progress seem hidden? And what does alien mean? Alien means something that is not related to the source. Okay, something. So if we're talking about the wheat, for example, we'll talk about weather or water or chemicals or whatever. Okay, this is one thing. Why does everyone's progress seem hidden? Because it's an internal aspect. It's in the layer of information. If you don't have the internal vessels to see that, you can it is actually hidden from you. Okay, No questions in YouTube. Weird. Probably Blake is on vacation, so all the rest have nobody to talk with. Okay, so maybe everything is clear. Okay, so I have 3 minutes. I won't start a new thing. We'll finish by now. For now, we'll meet again next Monday, and we'll continue with the third factor, or the third. How did they translate that? Reason. Okay. So by then, have a great night, day, wherever you are, and see you. Bye bye.